Welcome to Last Orders, the podcast about the podcast. We are going to talk with some of the players about the recent episode of the Crowded Tavern. Most specifically about episode 1, Welcome to Barracuda. With me today I have my trusted friend and ally, Amanda. Say
hello.
Hi, Amanda. I said, say hi, Amanda, not hello. Come on, you practice.
Hi, Amanda.
Also with us we have two guests, two of the players. So Adam, aka Aedamori, aka Strix.
Oh.
How you doing?
Hi everyone. Good. Yeah, bit of a frantic few days honestly, but nice to settle down into a fun little chatty hour or so.
Yeah, I know that feeling. As I said earlier, before we started recording, I woke up in Rotterdam and now I'm back in Odense.
Okay.
So, been around. Anyway, speaking of Copenhagen, we have our very own Auburn, aka Danny. How you doing?
Hello, I am fine.
And you are here on time, even though there was
Yes.
a little bit of a time zone mix-up going on.
Didn't have to say that. You could just say that I was on time.
It happens.
Yeah, it does happen. All right. So what we're going to do here today is we're going to talk a little bit about. What we're going to do here today is that we're going to talk a little bit about the episode that we did, the first session. Maybe also talk a little bit about some of the other stuff we've been doing behind the scenes. I know we've had a few questions in that regards as well. But before we get that far, I'd like to start with two things that I've been having on my mind, and it's two missed opportunities on my part that I just wanted to get out there, because one of them I found was really funny joke that I should have made. I forgot about it, and I'm so annoyed about it, because I've been thinking that's one of the first things I thought about when I thought about this scene, the scene where you're being pushed through the portals. And I wanted to say at some point, you're right now you're being railroaded through the lanes, railroaded through the story, you know. And I'm so sad that I didn't make that joke, that I forgot about it.
Oh, shit. We may as well just record the whole thing again for the very first time. Redo.
That one joke.
Because of that one joke, yeah.
No, put it in the. I assume we're going to do a recap at the start of episode 2, so.
Yeah, good point.
Put it in there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Should totally do that. And something else we probably might want to put in the recap that I'm a little bit sad that we actually didn't announce is that we started at level 12. You made level 12 characters, and that's not exactly where you ended. And I know that my girlfriend was she was so sad that revelation came off screen, because she wanted to see the players' reactions. And to be honest, that's sort of like what I had in mind as well. Sort of forgot about it halfway through. Well, even until the end. But yeah, you cannot. I mean, we're still starting out, trying out new things. So maybe we'll get it right next time.
You know, some things are forgotten in the heat of the moment, and I guess we can still recap that at the start of episode 2, since it's really important knowledge. Because I was really sad. I had a really good character.
Honestly, I was like, oh no, okay.
I mean, I like the turn in the story that it happened, but I was like, oh man, I went from 3 attacks around to 1.
Big mood.
That is also why it was. Sorry, go on, Adam.
No, I was just going to say, we'll see exactly how things play out in episode 2, but that might not even be the most devastating drop in the group.
I believe that, yeah. Especially people who had very high level spells like you.
I know. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's more losing access to the mid-level spells I'm worried about.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting where that whole thing is going, but I do have a plan with all that. It is also a little bit. a little bit experimenting with, scaling people back down levels again. It's I still haven't figured out in my head how I'm exactly going to do it, but we still have from the recording time, I still have 1.5 weeks to figure it out. So it's going to be fine. Don't worry about it.
No problem. You
But
got
did
this.
any of thanks. Did any of you see something like this coming, like a descaling of your characters?
No.
Not at all. I thought we were going to just stay level 12 and that would be it.
Right. Okay.
So I will admit that there was a little note that you put in the Strix's prologue specifically that sort of clued me into why would he call that out if he weren't going to take it away? I didn't think we would, honestly, in my head, sort of knowing what's going to happen to Strix now, I kind of figured that level 5 would be the floor and you wouldn't drop us below that because of with the things that are going to happen now as a result of Strix not having 3rd level spells. So just how far we dropped came as a surprise, but I thought I might drop a few levels here.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, even at one point I was thinking of dropping you even lower. But I thought that generally level 4 is below that threshold for a lot of people where they started getting a lot of good stuff, and I wanted you to get that feeling at least. And hopefully, not hopefully, we will get around to what's actually going on. Why is this happening? But obviously, I don't want to jump into that on this episode, at least. So. But overall, how did you enjoy the first season? The first season, we're already done apparently.
Nope. See you later. Bye.
It was a little short, actually.
How did you find the first session? Let's just take each one of you. Start with Amanda. How are you doing?
I really enjoyed it. Actually, I said on my other podcast today, Geek Caring, I said that I had fairly high expectations for how the first episode would go, and it blew those expectations out of the water. It went so well that I was pleasantly surprised. It just elevated everything that I had, and I was like, holy shit, this was such a great episode in all ways. I love the characters, I love the reveal, and the music especially was fantastic, and I feel like that really made it. It would have been great without music as well, but the music was so perfect that it really elevated everything for me. I enjoyed it, and I haven't laughed that hard in a long time. It was so funny, but also really serious at times. It was. I don't know. Can you tell I really liked it? It was excellent.
I mean, good to hear. There's both things where I'm very glad to hear that, because that is, sort of what I aim to do. But I'm also a little bit worried because, the first session here has been very, at least from my part, very scripted. I knew exactly everything that's going to happen in this particular episode, where the next one is probably a little bit more, open what you can do, because now you're in this world and you can explore it. And obviously I will be giving some hints to, what I sort of, I will not try and nudge you in a direction, but technically, you have an open new world you can explore. So yeah, scared about that. Danny, how are you feeling? As a fellow DM, how are you feeling?
I feel jealous.
What? Okay.
No, actually, I really admired your storytelling. I thought you did amazing. I really visually in my head saw everything happening as you described it. You described it so well. I was really living that story and thought it was fantastic. And I was surprised. I knew that something would go wrong. Obviously, something would go wrong, but the way it went wrong was just so epic, and I really vividly saw the portals flying through the air, dropping things, and everyone flying through trees and stuff. It was amazing. I loved it, and as a fellow DM, I don't believe that I could have done any better. You nailed it. Loved it.
Thanks.
I praise.
Because I think that, yeah, it is. And I think that was also one of my, or still probably is a little bit one of my biggest concerns, is that English is my second language. So, sometimes when I need to describe things, I don't have as large as a vocabulary as a native English speaker, and also sometimes I just can't find the words. So I think that's the biggest thing that I'm struggling with currently.
But it was fine. I am a Dane just like you. I don't know every single word, and I sometimes stumble in the words in English. And listening to the bits where I talked in the stream, I also caught myself speaking a bit of Danglish, which I hate. But you just get so excited, you don't really think about it. You just play along.
No.
All
right,
I'm just going to jump in
sorry.
here, and just on the point of visualizing the story. I have that thing where I don't visualize when I read, or like I do, but it's like really, really, really not clear at all. Whereas like some people have full pictures in their heads when they read. And your descriptions last week, Marty, I actually could picture things. And that it's so rare for me to do that, but I could picture things so clearly. It was like it was actually happening. So I just want to jump on it with what Danny was saying, like that it was very, very great storytelling, because it actually activated that part of my brain that actually doesn't really work. So good job.
Interesting. Thanks. All right, Adam, no more praise. I cannot handle it.
Ah, no. Well, I've got not much to
I
say
hated
then
it.
if I'm not allowed to praise. Because I do think it was like a really, really excellent opening. Sort of just to try and not repeat, to sort of add on to things. I think for me, there's a hallmark of really good writing, which is where as you're going through sort of scene by scene, and you're seeing the choices that the writers made, and you're like, oh, that's a curious choice. I don't quite get why that works like that, or why this character's been introduced. And then sort of you get to a big moment and a reveal, and it's like, oh, okay, everything makes sense now. Or sort of watching back when you know what's coming, you understand much better why things had to be the way they were. And I've rewatched the whole thing already, minus the secret section. I skipped over that. But yeah, I think like even rewatching it was becoming more clear. Like, okay, I see now why this character had to be introduced or whatever, because now I know where it's going. It makes a lot more sense. But I think the other thing that I want to pick up on is to sort of praise the rest of the cast. I've not had much of a chance to interact with Auburn last session, and I'm really looking forward to Strix and Auburn interacting.
Yes, me too.
Me three.
Amazing.
But I had at least a little moment of back and forth with all of the other characters, and everybody does seem to be like very comfortable improving and bouncing off. So it was a really great episode 1, but I'm also looking forward to having a more open episode 2, 3, 4, where it's not all on Marty, and we can sort of bounce off each other, and just to see where that takes these 5 characters that we've got.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I have to say, sorry, go on, Danny.
Yeah, I really want to see conversations happening. Of course, not to the point where it bogs down the story. I want the story to happen too, but there are definitely some things that will be really fun. I've been thinking a lot about what could be said and done, and not everything is gonna happen, obviously. But there are so many things, so many conversations that could be had.
Yeah, and I have to admit that I was really myself really pleasantly surprised as well, to see how pretty much everybody just caught the balls that I threw at them and kept them in the air. Nessa, I have to say, she is probably one of my favorite characters in here currently. I think what we saw in session 1 she was so funny to me, at least. I really loved how how she, the character you created, how she is, and I love that you just caught those balls and started to, making a questionnaire about how Auburn's, experience was. It was amazing.
Well, Neza, she wants to know all that gritty little information, so that's who she is as a person. She's very inquisitive and is going to ask a lot of questions that will probably make you uncomfortable.
Also, just to make one point clear, that I, Danny, the player, really love dogs. I love all animals. just because Auburn doesn't really care for them that much, he has reasons.
I get it as a deer,
Yes. But me, Danny, the player, loves all animals.
Thank you for that clarification. Very important.
Very important, yeah. But yeah, I also think, and one of my favorite scenes from this episode was Strix's introduction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yes.
Adam and I had been talking a little bit where you thought it could be funny if someone from the cast thought he would be familiar, and as soon as you said that, I was like, this is such a cool idea. It's so funny. I love this idea. Let's see what I can do to try and set that scene up. And then you said maybe he uses his zombies to get around, and I was like, all right, it gets even better now. I can I can see the scene in front of me right now, and let's plays Auburn right there. No, not Auburn. Alim right there, and see what happens. And it played out so freaking well. And I was really, you can probably see it on the live stream, really trying not to laugh like for the full 5 minutes the scene went on.
I couldn't not laugh. That was so good. Your deadpan of it, and just Rick's what is going on? Because that was not just in character. Rick was like, what is this? Oh my gosh. That reveal was so good.
I do think full credit to Rick in that scene as well, because I think it's, at least for me personally, and I do think for a lot of people, it's easier to play that out there weird character. Mm-hmm. And it's much harder to play the straight man reacting to that. Mm-hmm. So, looking forward to see how all of you handle that with Strix. But yeah, no, definitely full credit to Rick for that scene.
I also love that Strix seems kind of the suspicious type. Why? He was kind of questioning Arlene, what can you do? Why are you here? If you're going on this, then I don't understand that you say you can do nothing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I can share it, right? Sort of part of my logic with that was Strix's sort of beak was a bit bent out of shape, learning that this guy Arlene that I've just met in a bar, who's seemingly doesn't really have any relevant talents, was accepted onto this expedition months ago, and I was only accepted a few days ago. And I've been applying that whole time. I think there are some little breadcrumbs Marty's been laying about why that happened, and I don't know when we're gonna get to dig into that, but. Yeah, I noticed that was an aspect of a lot of other characters only getting onto the expedition right at the last minute, which is interesting. And
yeah,
I assume some arc that's going to happen.
I think Auburn's was just a month before. So.
But Nessa, I think you got accepted in your prologue.
Basically.
Remembering right. Yeah.
Yep. Don't know why, because obviously I'm the smart one. I need to go.
All right, let me explain it all one more time. No. Right. No. Yeah. I don't know what to say. I'll just keep my mouth shut, I think, and we'll probably discover that naturally.
Please spoil the entire adventure right now.
All right. Let's see. Time 20 minutes. Let's jump into just a quick talk about session 0 a little bit. I think the whole website, our website, we will update that very soon. But one thing, and I haven't cleared this with Amanda yet, so I don't know if this will be a good or bad idea. But I think it is.
I'm getting thrown here. Okay, give it to me, Marty.
Yeah,
Let's go.
No, I want to make a few blog posts where I actually reveal some of the documents and stuff that I have made for you, and maybe some of my what makes sense, some of my internal stuff. Just also to be like, here's some stuff for you new DMs who are like, what do I actually prepare? Because I know that's been my big, when I started out, what do I prepare? So maybe just to give a little bit of insight of how I work, and I mean, it's not necessarily the right way, but it works for me. But just sharing that information, I think, could be pretty cool.
No, I think that's a terrible idea. Downvote.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Fine. All right. Anyway, let's talk about session 0, because we did do a little bit of things. We did a session 0 where we talked, obviously the things we needed to get through, since not everyone here knows each other, is that we went through where our boundaries, what. How far can we push things, stuff like that, just to get a feel for each other. And then the second part was the systems that we were going to be using, because not everyone of you have been used to playing online or even playing with online systems. So that's sort of like the second part of it. And yeah, so session 0 we play a little bit D&D, and you play completely different characters. How was that whole experience all of a sudden to have just getting, here's some characters, let's try these things out?
It was not my first time playing a character that Marty made for me, but it was my first time playing it at very short notice, because I didn't even know we were actually going to play together at that time. And it was a lot of fun. I feel like I really like Frayne the
Furious,
because I kept calling her Frayne the Feral. So I was like, no, but she's not feral, she's furious. I really liked playing her. She was a lot of fun, and it was great watching everybody learn the system that we're using to play the game, because obviously Marty and I have been using that system in our private game for a while. I don't actually know how long, because we transferred it over to it at some point in the last 2 years we've been playing, and it's a great system, and I even found that I learned some stuff that I didn't know you could do, so that was really cool too. But my joy was getting to interact with the other 4 cast members for the very first time, and seeing them improv right away with a character that they had never seen before. And so it gave me a lot of joy and also hope that we've casted well, and that it's going to be a lot of fun. Sorry?
We did something right.
Yeah, that we did something right. So it was great, and I also really enjoyed playing an absolute feral character. Maybe I should make them more often.
And just a little fun note for at least the cast, Frayne that Amanda was playing in the session 0 is the grandmother to Frayne that was in the live session, or in the session 1. So just a little behind the scenes lore dump.
It's been that long.
I mean, it's also the goblins, so they don't necessarily live that long.
True.
But yeah, I mean, even Ron, that sadly died in this session. I mean, even he's like he's 50 years old at this point. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Ron.
Always be in our hearts.
How about you, Danny? Session 0, how was it too? Because I know you were new to the whole online system thing. How was it for you to see that in action?
Well, it felt much like a video game, so it didn't appear all that different to me. And I've played a lot of D&D and such related games, so kind of felt like playing one of those, which I really enjoy. So it wasn't that foreign to me. but I thought it was great. Like Amanda said, getting to play with the others really mattered a lot to me. So that get the feel for how people will play when they play it, if they like to play combat straight, or if they like to act during combat and such. So I thought it was great. I thought it was also necessary to do it. So it was really good that we did.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to 100% agree with that. And to be fair, I think even if we have had a little bit more time, I would have liked to do another session off screen. I think even in my original notes, I wrote 2 sessions, but we ended up just having 1. But seeing session 1 now, I think that it's fine. I think this group is working quite well. And yeah, Adam, you were playing Viero in session 0, and Viero had a little bit of a mention in Benjamin's scene with the collectible figure. Did you make the connection to that card, or did you have you already forgotten about it?
Yeah, I did. I know it's the sort of fireball. I thought that was quite fun. Although I think it's probably worth saying to the listeners that I was having some horrible technical difficulties during session 0, so on the theme of it being necessary to do that before we went live, it was very necessary from my point of view. I definitely felt like my improv was thrown off, and I was not like really on my game when we were playing, but it was still great to see sort of the rest of the cast interacting. And also, I think seeing some of the NPCs that, presumably given the events of episode 1, there's little chance of us interacting with anytime soon now. It was really nice to have sort of met them in person, as it were, even if it's with another character, so that I, the player, have a much better idea who these people are. That it's my theory are going to drive a lot of the story, even if we don't actually see very much of them. Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of an intent I think originally when I just figured out that we were probably going to play something at Session 0, I just made some, throwaway characters. But the more I started thinking about it, the more I was like, it would make so much sense if it's actually tied at least just a little bit into this world that I've been creating, because, the thought process was that if you guys, recognize stuff and feel like a little bit excited about it and about the world, and can, nod to when something is happening, it might sell the world better, So that ended up being my intent in the end.
You did good.
All right. Thanks. Sorry about that. So probably a difficult question. What are your expectations going forward?
Death.
Death?
Yeah.
All right. Well, there might be some of that in there.
I mean, probably.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Probably, I think we're going to have to explore. We're going to have to figure out what we can and cannot live off, and I quite think there will be some dangerous animals or inhabitants in this world that we don't know or get to meet. Really?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Don't mind me, I'm just sitting here casually writing notes.
See, they want animals.
How to do this.
I don't know how do I fill out 8, 9 more episodes? Yeah, I bet there will be some of that, Danny. I'm pretty sure there will be.
It's just a theory, though.
Yeah.
Might just be politics for the next 8 episodes or something. Who gets to be the leader?
That's a good question. Who will be the leader? Mm-hmm. So how is Strix feeling? Is Strix aiming, or will he be aiming for that chief security spot?
He definitely won't be aiming for the chief spot. Strix wouldn't want to be the leader in a situation like this, and I think he's too young for that to really be believable anyway, with how many people there are. But sort of, at the right hand of the person leading, like, I'll make sure everybody's safe while you figure out what we actually need to do. I could see him in a role like that, definitely. In terms of expectations, I would like just to sort of build on what Danny was saying. We've got the like you asked the same question in session 0. What are our expectations going in? And I said,
and you said something will go wrong, and I was like, yes,
yeah. I think I also said that sort of when you've got this the 3 elements of RPG and of role playing, and I sort of suspected that this would be particularly heavy on exploration, and that's pretty much cemented now as an expectation of what's going to happen. I guess also I could get a little bit more specific. Like, I have 2 expectations, and it's like of directions we could go in. If that sort of makes sense. I have a big question in my head and in Strix's head that he's going to be urgently trying to resolve at the start of next session, which is that obviously sort of we've gone through the portal and have been depowered. Like, to what extent is that something you might expect if you were to find yourself in this situation? Sort of the way I think of it is, if you go through a portal to another planet, like if you or I went through a portal to another planet and your phone suddenly had no signal, that's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. That's kind of how phones work. But if you step through a portal and your phone suddenly has no battery, even though it was fully charged, that's something's wrong with this place if it's that side of the coin. And sort of in character, out of character, I don't know which it is right now, but Strix is very keen to figure that out.
Yeah, good. Glad to hear that, because I have written a lot of notes about that while I've been in Rotterdam. He can maybe try and see if he can figure some things out in that regards, and I'll happily give some direction toward, or some nudges towards that, because that is sort of like. I'm trying not to give too much away, because I've had this, world in my head for 15 years. But like, what I'm something I will call 2 ages in the future. So I mean, this is like the prequel to the prequel sort of thing that we're doing right now. So it's definitely something that will be answered in this series. Is what is up with this place, and how do you even as someone who's a magical user move forward on a planet like this? So, all right.
I'm personally looking forward to seeing Strix have to walk and fly without an endless army of zombies.
Yeah. I'm wondering if Strix is the only flying member, not just of the party, but of all of the survivors, because that's going to put a lot on his shoulders if he's sort of kind of in an enforced scout role, which I certainly wouldn't mind, Marty. As you're aware, like perception and sight is something that Strix is firmly built for. But yeah, having that be something that's really unique to him would sort of draw attention to that aspect of the character, and would be, I guess, a little unnerving even for Strix. It's like, right, I guess I'm gonna have to go up or out and be there completely on my own, so that we know like where the fuck we are and what's going on, and if anybody's coming to get us.
I can actually. Auburn will probably be relating to that, because he actually has training in nature survival. The only thing is that Auburn has never ever been to real nature. So he's probably also going to be doing a bit of that, but being the character that Auburn is, that's going to be very hard on him, because one thing is having a lot of training, and the other thing is actually having the practical experience to do things. So there's also
don't worry, Auburn. We have a very prestigious member of the Order of the Owlbears to serve you and teach you all about survival skills actually in nature.
Yes. Excellent.
Who cares that he's only 16? It's fine.
It's gonna be me and the kid out there.
Little child.
I love, just side note, I just love how both Nessa and Alim said, we're not parents. Just like, nope, not going to deal with that.
No, I'm really looking forward to see how Benjamin develops as a character as well, because I think he's obviously sort of starting the farthest back and therefore has the furthest to go in terms of character growth, and I'm really looking to see what people have in mind for that arc and where that's going to go.
I am also looking forward to seeing that, because Cheesy Regular says to me, Benjamin's really annoying. He's going to annoy you, and he's going to do it on purpose. And I'm like, great, because Nez is so good at people. She's going to have a great time with this.
Yeah, it was actually as a DM with this specific setting in mind and this story that I want to tell, because I definitely have some things. Because I have a story in mind as well, a different story that is going to happen in the future that I have in mind, and I need. Well, I don't need to, because you can always retcon stuff. But I'm trying to see if, because I've already written this story as an NaNoWriMo, never went back to it and edited and stuff like that. But I actually do have a story, and I'm trying my hardest to get you to play along with me without me telling you to do these things. So I have like these checks that I'm trying to reach without telling you what they are, and it's really, really fun for me to try and get that done. And I don't know if I will get there, which is why there will probably also, over the coming few sessions, there's probably a few NPCs that will be introduced as well, as like named NPCs, because they will be the backup in case plan A fails, break glass, and here's an NPC that funny enough fits, so it will be really interesting to see, because so not even do I have this puzzle of getting all your characters together, I have this another puzzle that I want to try and fit this puzzle with the other puzzle. So but it's tremendous fun to me, so we'll see if it works or not. And worst case scenario, retcon the story that I already wrote. So
there you go.
Well, I mean, you can always kind of tell as a player when the DM really wants something to happen. So part of the unwritten social contract in D&D is that while you certainly get to do what you want as a player, you should also try to do what the DM wants, because that's where the story is. So
I'm very good at not doing what Marty as a DM wants. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah, well, I will have to say that currently your character plays right into what I want. So currently you're very good at, maybe unintentionally, actually doing what I want. So that's fine. But no, I mean, obviously I cannot, decide. I mean, I can try and push, but I cannot decide how our character will develop over time. That's up to the player. And everybody who has tried to DM also knows that players can do, go in all kinds of directions, to put it in a polite way, So we'll see what happens. But I will try and lay my puzzle pieces, and then we'll see where we end up in the end. All right, let's jump into some community questions, because we did have a few questions from our community. So let's run through some of them. So GDY67 asked on our Discord, what was everyone's character creation process like? So let's just start from going around the room, the virtual room we're sitting in. Amanda, if you want to start out, how was your character creation process?
So
because you were the one that was done as one of the first, right? You were one of the first ones that were completely done with your character, right?
Absolutely. It was not the night before we went live that I actually wrote her backstory. That definitely did not happen. It's definitely, when we first talked about this and developed the whole character and she was sorted and it wasn't the night before. I swear.
DM, I would like to roll an insight check right now.
I did have the concept for Neza fairly early on though, because I kind of based her on another monk character that I had that I played her for a one shot, and I was like, I would love to have a character like this that I could really develop. Her thing, this one shot character, her kind of role was that she was very dexterous and like wise, but she had a 5. I rolled a 5 for her intelligence, so she was dumb and she was gullible, and like having to roll, and I was like, here comes my -3 in intelligence, and like she was a lot of fun. So I kind of had it in my head that I would like to play a monk similar to her, and Neza is not very dumb and gullible, unlike Ahai, but that's how I based her, or where I had this idea. And I ended up buying the guide to Eberron, the D&D guide to Eberron, because Marty said that we were going to be in like a high magic, high technology world similar to Eberron, like kind of in that technology area. So I did. I bought the guide, and I was like trying to, because I couldn't figure out, other than a monk, what I wanted her to be. And then that's when I found the Kalashtar. I was like, as soon as I read it, I like had to flip ahead in the guide, and I was like, this is it. This is who she is. Like, this is the like thing that I was missing in her story. And then my other like thought was that I wanted her to be a scientist, because like I think it's really interesting dynamic for me to explore myself, to have like that science and technology combined with that like monk and nature, and like really natural world, and how that dynamic plays out actually. And yeah, so that's where she kind of was born. She went through a few iterations. I was talking about an artificer and a monk like combination, and did not do that, because at the end of the day, like the monk benefits are from having like no armor, and if you're an artificer, you have a lot of armor. And I'm like, well, this would just be really contradictory, wouldn't it? But she was almost like some kind of weird that combination. But yeah, it was definitely the night before that I actually sat down and finally wrote her backstory, because sometimes that's when the creative spark comes, and like that's where you get it from. Like I kind of had that outline. I knew who-ish she was, but like actually getting in the nitty-gritty and discovering who she was, it's a different story. So
I do think it's worth jumping in there and also sort of just saying to the listeners that sort of when we were very first talking about this campaign and pulling together characters, Amanda was very keen to say to all the other players, like, no, like, don't worry about the party. You guys play what you want to play. I will make the party work. So I don't think it's at all to Amanda's detriment that you were figuring things out last minute, because you kind of needed to see everybody else's character first before you could really like see exactly how your character needed to fit in the final. In the final iteration. So, just to say again, thank you for that.
Oh, you're very welcome. And I know that like there's a lot of fun as well in having unbalanced parties. Like you don't need somebody up front. You don't need like a tank or a martial person. Like it's fine. But also it's sometimes really helpful to have somebody who is up there and like in the front line of the fight. So I'm glad to. And I'm glad to play a character that's not a rogue, because I also play many rogues, which I also was thinking about, and I was like, no, I'm going to play something that's not a rogue, for goodness sake. So.
Alright. Danny, how does Auburn get born?
Well, the funny thing is, Marty, you've actually met Auburn once before. But it wasn't Auburn back then. His name was Errol. He also came from our campaign in the Eberron setting, actually, too, because shifters are from the Eberron setting originally. And in that one, he was a druid apprentice. And that ties into the story of the first time I actually permanently killed a character, which was Marty's character. Then
Marty
go
was
on
very
forever.
upset about that, by the way. Like, we talked about that for days.
I wasn't upset about the death. I was upset about I couldn't figure out if I wanted to resurrect him.
Yeah, well, true.
He had the chance to resurrect him, but we all agreed it was cooler if he just had that heroic sacrifice to save Errol, which is a long story, so I won't go into it. But I based the character off Errol, which was also a very nervous deer shifter, but who wanted to do the right thing, who wanted to save his master, who he believed was in danger, because she hadn't returned for a while. So he asked for help, got it from the adventurers, and then I thought more about what kind of character I wanted to play, and I really wanted to play an arcane archer because I think they're really cool. And then I thought, what kind of character haven't I played before? And I have never played like a character that is nervous to the core almost, but genuinely wants to do good. So the dichotomy of playing a character who wants one thing but is another really appeals to me. So that's how Auburn was born, and I just looked at a bunch of pictures of Red Deer and thought, oh man, it'll be so cool if he, like, when he shifts, he turns into like a more badass version of himself. He becomes everything he wants to be, but he isn't when he's himself. So that's.
I have to say that I really loved when that actually came into, because we saw that shift during the portal scene, and I just loved how well that was done, and I'm happy that you waited, because you did talk about that. We've been speaking, and you did say that you thought about using that ability later on, early on in when you had the dream sequence, and I'm happy that you saved it for this specific moment, because seeing him, being from, I'm just following orders, to shifting and saving people and make like a perfect landing for 10, and then just shift back into his normal self and just completely melt. I just loved that whole, his scene so much when all that happened.
Thank you. It's hard because I really wanted to make that shift and make it really cool, and I thought, well, it's gonna come out when he's at his most stressed, or if there's a situation that he can't handle. So the dream sequence was close for him, but I thought it's because he knows it's not real somewhere deep inside.
It didn't even hurt.
But then he's not gonna do it. But seeing his security chief being cut in half and having that instinct to just, he told you to keep running, and then something inside just comes out and says, you're in trouble now. You got to do something.
Yeah, awesome. Strix, where's he born?
So I will say Strix was actually straight off my list that presumably most TTRPG players have of character concepts that I do want to get around to one day. He hadn't been sat on it for particularly long, but like I sort of the faint beginnings of Strix were there before I even knew about Crowded Tavern. And I guess sort of often I find a lot of my characters are born when I find a subclass that I like and I think about it for long enough, and then I pair that up with a species, and it sort of fits together in a way that I find interesting, and that's definitely what happened with Strix. I'd known for a while that I wanted to play a necromancer at some point, and like didn't want to play like wanted to put a twist on it, but I wasn't sure what I wanted the twist to be. And then it's sort of occurred to me that if you consider sort of like, I think there are actually 2 D&D races around owls, but sort of when you consider an IRL owl, they're really not how they're presented in fantasy. Like often in fantasy, an owl's considered like a wise old sage who's very friendly and has all this knowledge, whereas like a typical actual owl's behavior is to fly out of the darkness, dig its claws into you, and carry you off and eat you. That's like what owls do, and it's not like friendly or wise at all. It's horrifying. So I wanted to drill into that aspect of that species. And sort of the other thing that really helps is their very unique sort of style of vision, which is straight up an iconic scene from a horror film. If you put it on anything other than an owl. So that's kind of how Strix was born.
Yeah, for gauging chat, and also just I've seen some of the Twitter messages afterwards. It seems like a lot of people just, even though he is a scary little owl, a lot of people fell in love with him. It feels like.
I was worried people were gonna hate him, honestly. Like, not the other players sort of having interacted with them. I sort of knew we would get on, but I was worried like chat and the audience were really not gonna like Strix, because he's not a nice person. Like, his alignment is good, but like, he's not friendly. His charisma modifier is -1, and if I'd roll lower, it'd be lower. He's a bit of an asshole. Like it's funny to watch, but if you imagined the scene between him and Arlene, like, actually playing out between two actual people, nah, Strix is being a straight up dick in that scene. He's not he's not a nice person at all.
I think Arlene really took that to heart, you know. So,
Yeah.
Arlene knows.
But I guess sort of fortunately, Danny came to my rescue by saying that Auburn doesn't like dogs, and I think that drew all the attention away from him.
Yes.
True.
Awesome. All right, we have another one from Guess Lizzie with it. Good old Lizzie asks, did anyone other than the DM know about the setting? Anyone who wants to answer that?
I mean, we knew some of it. Marty gave us a fairly in-depth description of the setting of Baraguo and what to expect in that world. High magic, high technology, science, the IAC, and stuff.
Yeah, I guess it depends sort of which setting they're referring, because obviously there's the setting that was the setting for most of episode 1, which was Baraguru, which Marty was great and provided loads of information on, which makes sense because that's information we would know in character. And also what would make it no idea about where we are and what is presumably the setting for most of the season. No information about that, and again, totally appropriate because Strix has no idea where he is.
Yeah. Don't know how much more I can add to that.
No.
We knew about the start. We don't know where we are or what's gonna happen.
I had this weird thing halfway through where I was sort of like, did I do it wrong? Because I was really unsure, because I gave you this setting about Baraguru, and I could see that the responses I got back from everybody just loved that setting. And everybody was like, oh, this sounds so cool, and this is such a, lots of, people were really vibing with this place. And I knew at that point that, yep, that's not where we're going to spend most of this season. And everybody was just so excited about that world. And I was just sort of like, did I shoot myself in the foot right now? Because everybody seems so excited about that place. But I think I wrote it off in my own brain to be like, well, if the more excited you about the world, the better, because because then it might be a lot a bigger downer when you actually realize that we're actually not where we're supposed to be. So that was sort of my thought process, but I was worried for probably a day or two.
But I think we all knew what we were signing up for, because the expedition was front and center. Like, that's what it was mentioned in the document. Like, that's what you briefed us on. Like, there's going to be an expedition to a new world. So we're all planning to leave this world that you introduced in the first place. So I think that you set our expectations, so there isn't that disappointment that like, shit, now we're leaving this really cool place to go to this weird place where we're level like nothing,
Yeah, If we weren't excited about going to somewhere new, we would have just said, "Hey, can't we just have the entire campaign in Baraguro?"
Yeah.
The
I
thing
also
is,
think it's worth
oh, sorry.
saying that it's not like, even if we never go back, I wonder if we might make it back like right at the end of the season as a sort of bookending thing. But even if we never go back to Baraguro for like 5 seasons, Baraguro's gone, it's not coming back. Like, it's not like that's not going to have an effect on the campaign. I'm still playing a character that grew up there, and I'm interacting primarily with other characters that grew up there. Our characters have, if you like, a Baraguro mindset. We'll be going about things the way people would that grew up there. So I still think it's like that all that city and that world building that you did is inevitably going to have an impact on the campaign, even if we never see the actual place again.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's sort of like what resonated. I figured out, thought about, and the conclusion that I got to as well. So, but I have to admit also, because all this lore that I came up with for this is something that I've come up with over the last few months that we prepared for this. So it's actually all new lore that I made up just for one session, and then so I was also sort of like, am I over preparing? What am I doing? What is this? And I've sort of fallen in love with this world now as well. So if there will be more seasons, I think it could maybe be fun to go back and explore that world a little bit more, maybe. But let's see. Let's focus on this season and then see where we're at after this. But yeah, I've fallen in love in my own world that I created. So that's awesome. Right, I have a quick one from Gemma, who asked, "How much do you talk behind the scenes to plan things?" Anyone who has anything?
Very little.
Very little regarding the actual story. I think because we don't really know where we're going. I think most of us don't actually want to like talk anything out in advance. All would want things happen naturally, to be mostly improvised, at least.
Yeah, I don't think nothing's in any way scripted. I think, like, as you said, the closest we came to like planning things in advance would be me saying to Marty, "Oh, I have an idea about this. It would be cool if this happened," or maybe like I've said on this podcast, like, I'm wondering about this thing, and I don't know how that's going to play out. And last time I said something like that to Marty, he totally took it on board and ran with it, but I have no idea if he's going to do that. And sort of, I'll get thrown what I'm thrown in session, and I'll react to it in the moment.
This question is a really good example on why I want to do these blogs, because I think some people who's not, especially people who haven't played D&D, might watch this and be like, "Oh, this is a very cool scripted show," and in fact it isn't. Sure, the characters themselves have been, somewhat defined by the players themselves. I might have nudged here and there where I felt like, hey, this would work a little bit better for me if it would be this way. But besides that, I try to stay away from your characters, and so the characters are like 99% the players that have defined them within the framework that I've been giving them about this world. And then I also made each of you like a small document that just quickly described what have you been doing the past month, roughly, what are you up to right now, and the last bit is basically, this is what happens right before we start the sessions, just so people could be just a little bit prepared and don't be thrown in at the too deep end. But everything that happened on screen, the conversations, all of that is just made up on the spot, which is also why when I then see that people are running with those balls that I'm throwing at them, it's amazing to see someone like Nessa going into questionnaire mode, or things like that. So, all right. Any last words, comments, questions from you guys here now, or should we end this thing?
I'm just really looking forward to next week. to record the next live episode. You've put us in a really precarious situation here, Marty, and I'm like really excited to see how we'll respond. And I'm also nervous to see how much Benjamin actually does get on my nerves. Nez's nerves, not mine. Nez's. Because I've been promised very annoying, so, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll second that. I'm really excited about playing again and seeing where the story goes and what happens to all of us.
That's up to you.
It's up to me. I kill everyone.
All right.
Auburn snaps.
I snap. Go on a murder spree.
It was a short season, but at least season 1, episode 1 was good.
I told you, death.
Aedamori,
shadowing.
Nothing other than to echo what everybody else has said. Really looking forward to session 2, and the rest of the season. Seeing sort of what you've got planned and also sort of what we come up with together, just bouncing off each other. Like, really very limited interactions, at least between Strix and other characters in session 1. So looking forward to developing all of those relationships more deeply in over the next few sessions.
Yeah, I mean, I planned episode 1 and I planned episode 10. I don't really have too much in between, so let's see what the hell how that happens. What happens.
Excellent.
What are you looking forward to? Marty?
I'm looking forward to. I mean, I'm looking forward to see how everyone is handling the situation that they're in right now. I think most of you, we sort of got a little bit of a tidbit in the last hour of last session to see after you landed and just went into, chaotic, let's gather everyone up mode, and then to actually see, when the realization kicks in, because I don't think that has happened yet. You basically just touch, the sky people, throw people out and some food. Let's see what happens from now, So I'm looking forward to that, and obviously I'm looking forward to see if all my small, hints and nudges actually gets me there where I want the story to go, so I don't have to rewrite a full novel, or at least NaNoWriMo thing. But I'm just excited. I think what surprised me the most was just how the level of roleplay everybody was doing. I mean, obviously I knew that half of the cast is streamers and is used to be being on screen and doing stuff, but you never really know how people will act in a D&D setting. So it was really good to see, and I'm very happy that it turned out as it did so far. So I'm looking forward to see what will happen. How will the players react to the next few things? So, all right. I think that was what we had this week. A little bit over an hour, but I think that should be fine. If you want to, be updated on when there is new episodes, if you have questions, you can ask them to us, and you can do that over on Twitter at Crowded Tavern. You can also join our Discord, which is, you can find at geekherring.com/Discord. You have a channel in there where you can ask questions and things like that as well, if you have them. So I think that's it. Thanks for watching / listening, depending on where you're watching, listening to.
And I'm going to jump in here and say, if you really like the Crowded Tavern, please review us wherever you listen to your podcast, because that's really, really cool and really awesome and really important.
Yep.
Thank you. If you hate it,
All
please don't review us.
Well, at least then give constructive feedback,
There you go.
So I know what I should change. Okay. I think that's it. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Now,
Bye.
roll for initiative.